What's going on, guys? Today I finally got my DJI official ND filters. This is the 3 set. I think they only come in a 3 set, but I wanted to test these out against my K&F ones that I own. I haven't seen that many videos on these. There's maybe like 1 or 2, and everybody has a lot of reviews on the free will, on the K&F, and like any other ND filters but the DJI ones. And I was wondering why. And I was thinking maybe it's because of the price, or I don't know, maybe the other ones just offer a lot more, like all the Pro Mist, they're stackable and these are not stackable and all that stuff. But I am here to get the best quality that I can. And I feel like I'm going to answer this question for myself. And that's why I got these. I want to make sure that we're going to find this out today, guys. But my thinking behind this is that the DJI brand products that were made for Osmo Pocket by DJI should give you the best image, because hopefully they tested these products on their product and they know what it's gonna do to the colors and everything like that. So because it's made by DJI for DJI products, I'm assuming that this should be the best quality that you can get. And I wanna test that out. What I'm looking for here on these ND filters is the color shift. Every time you put an ND filter on a lens, there is going to be some sort of color shift happening no matter what. Some of them have it very, very minimal. It's either going to shift to the magenta side or the green side. I personally prefer the green side, but we're going to find out here if there is any color shifting happening. These are solid NDs, so that's going to be the best quality that you're going to get versus the VNDs where you have to turn. What happens with those is that it uses 2 pieces of glass, and when they're turning, sometimes you'll get like a cross pattern vignetting. And the only way you'll be able to find out if you own a VND, point it to the sky and start turning it. And then you'll start seeing that on the edges, like for example, on this frame right here, mostly on there, you're gonna get a shadow like right here like this, or maybe a shadow on the edges like this, or sometimes they come in at the bottom. But it's kind of like this like weird like X pattern, and it just distorts your image. If your face tends to land on that shadowy part, your colors are going to be looking different, your lighting is going to be looking different. So I personally stay away from VND filters. At least for Osmo Pocket, I stay away from them. I do use them on my Sonys for professional work. They do have hard stops. I don't notice a big cross pattern or anything like that on the Nisi ones that I use there. But for here, if you are a beginner and you're looking at possibly getting ND filters because you've been seeing videos, I'm gonna keep it short. You don't need any of these things. You don't need any filters. You don't need Pro Mist. You don't need nothing. You can use this camera without anything. You don't need to buy it. Keep it on auto. Open it out of the box, just hit record and you're ready to go. The reason why people use ND filters is to keep the motion blur. And if you're a beginner, motion blur is basically, you see how my hand looks? Now, if I was to go outside and a lot more light comes in, what's gonna happen, and without getting too geeky with it, the camera's gonna crank up the shutter speed, and it's going to make things look a lot like jittery, almost like a strobe light effect. So my hand is not gonna look as smooth when I'm moving it like this, that blur you see. And when you put an ND filter, what's gonna happen is the camera's gonna be forced to use a lower shutter speed, which is gonna give you a smoother motion blur. If you don't see it, then don't worry about it. You don't need ND filters. But if you want to spend 60 bucks or 20 bucks, you can get yourself either a K&F or this set of 3. Now, why do you need a set of 3? It's because they come in different strengths. Depending on how much light you have outside or less light, you're going to want to use a different strength. Basically, they're sunglasses to cut light, making your camera use lower shutter speeds to get this natural motion blur. That's really what it is, guys. All right, guys, now onto the product. They come in this little nice case. It says DJI. I really like it. Nice quality. There's like a rubber silicone holding or whatever, this mold here that holds all 3 VNDs. They look really nice. They're super shiny. They have this like chromy look on the front. They look high quality. So in this case, you get an ND16, a 64, and a 256. I don't know when I'll use a 256, but it's there. I'm assuming if you're like snowboarding or something, I don't know. I don't think you would be snowboarding with this, but maybe when you have snow. So they are a little bit thicker than the competitor here that I've been using. So in terms of thickness, like, let's see, you got, let me pull back a little bit. You have This is a DJI one, and it says DJI on it, which I actually like. I don't know if you can see it. It might be too small on here. And then these ones don't have any branding on them at all. It's a lot lighter. It's super, super thin, the K&F. With the K&F, if I was to put this on there and I turn off the camera, it's going to, with the K&F, the good thing is I can just leave it on there and it can close and shut the camera off and go into the off position without having to take this off. With the DJI one, because it is a little bit thicker than the K&F, when you turn it off, it's gonna do the thing where it hits and then the head's gonna retract the other way. I don't like turning it off this way. I know that it's a safety feature for the gimbal head, but I don't like to do that. I feel like that with time, it's just not gonna, it's gonna like hurt the DJI gimbal head. So I just try not to. I could be wrong about that, but these are not meant to turn off to leave on. You're supposed to take them off. And if you're gonna be taking them off and on, for most NDs you are, especially if you're switching off strings, this is gonna be a lot easier to take off because it's thicker. DJI actually put a couple slits, I don't know if you can see it here, but they put a couple little slits in there on each side. So when you grab it, you can actually put your nails on it and pull it off a lot better and faster than this. K&F just has, they have a slit too, but it's not as like deep. And it's very, very hard to take this off. Either way, guys, ND filters and any filters you put on this lens, except for the wide angle lens, are gonna be very hard to take off. The magnets are both very strong on the DJI and the K&F, so I don't have problems in terms of magnet. One you can take off very easily. The other one you can actually leave on if you're filming all day outside. You don't have to remove it. So that is a plus for K&F. But the build quality, I think it's the same for both of them. DJI just has that cool chrome finish at the front. I don't know if that does anything to the ND in terms of quality and just like picture performance. We're gonna go outside. Now I'm used to using the ND32 for K&F. I don't usually have to go past that, but I realized that if I'm using my camera in full auto, which is what I usually do, it doesn't bring down the shutter speed to where I need it to be, around that 1/50th, 1/60, to get this natural motion blur. So I would have had to use maybe like an ND60. We are going to go to Chipotle because today's live chat went really well. And all you guys bought me Chipotle today, and I'm so grateful for it. So I'm gonna go have Chipotle for lunch, and we're gonna test out this DJI ND. Today is a cloudy day, so we are gonna start off with the ND16, and I'm gonna leave everything in auto, guys. I want to see where the shutter speed lands when I use everything in auto for the ND16, but I'm gonna try to figure out if I need the 16 or the 64. Once I figure out which one we need, we'll do that outside. That'll let me know where the shutter speed's gonna land, and then I'm gonna put that on. I want you to pay attention to the colors. I wore a white shirt so that you can hopefully see if there's some sort of tint happening. On the way back, we'll switch to the K&F. Let's go outside. I'm not gonna stack these. These are not stackable, but for just viewing sakes, we're gonna do let's do this. Let's do the wide. I don't even think you can. Let me see. Nope, you can't. Here's the DJI ND filter stacked on top of the K&F wide angle lens. And you can see that the magnets just don't align. It like twists, so you can't stack this. Let's see if I can do, no, it's gonna scratch this. Yeah, it's actually retracting. You can't stack these, guys. So you cannot stack the DJI with K&F together. The magnets don't align, and they just like it makes this go like this. But I'm probably gonna be hanging on to like an ND64 in that spot. So let's go. All right, guys, my K&F wide angle lens got here, but that's gonna be another video, so we're gonna leave it at that. Right now we're on full auto. You see, here's what I'm talking about. Look at this motion blur, guys. It is, see how jittery it is? Strobe effect. All right, now let me put on ND16 and I'm gonna check where the shutter speed is gonna land, okay? Hold on. All right, guys, so we are on ND64 for the DJI to keep this motion blur. We're on full auto. I didn't lock the shutter speed or anything like that. But when I put the ND16, it brought down the shutter speed to about 100. That's not too bad. It's better than 800. Without NDs, I was at 800 shutter speed, which was giving me that jittery motion blur. And oh, it's getting cold. It was giving me that jittery motion blur. So that means I needed a little bit more ND. I went from the ND16 to the 64, and that brought me down to that 150th, which now gives me the normal blur here. We are at negative 0.7 for the exposure. So because we're on full auto, I don't know if the ISO is cranked up pretty high on this because of my car's a little bit darker, but everything looks pretty well exposed. I think ND64 might be the filter that we're gonna be using on this. We'll have to try it when it's sunnier outside. Other than that, I like the way the filter actually fits and looks on the Osmo Pocket. It's pretty sturdy. I think I paid, I think it was $68, guys. You get the 3 set. And if you're gonna be taking these things on and off, like I mentioned, I'd rather have them be a little bit bigger so I can grab them. These ones are way easier to grab and take off than the K&F. But the K&F you can leave on. But if you're going through different lighting situations and you need to take off the filter and put a stronger one in there, then you're gonna run into problems. It's always a pain to just keep changing ND filters. So especially when you're out traveling and vlogging and doing all this stuff, like you just don't have the time. And I think it takes away from travel. I mentioned this in the live vlog. If you haven't gotten a chance to look at the live vlog, just check it out. It's a little bit slower pace. A lot of people were asking questions. We had a lot of great conversations. But I think that if you're traveling and you're using this for everyday use, and maybe you're out with your kids, your family, just use this thing in auto, because if you're constantly switching out those filters, it's going to get in the way and you're going to get really frustrated with this thing. You're not going to have a good experience and you're not going to like it. So I recommend full auto always for everything. Now, today is kind of more of a planned vlog, and you know, we're gonna go to Chipotle and eat. The good thing about having more of a natural motion blur is that when you are moving or driving, like the outside here just looks more natural. The way it's just moving, it looks more natural than when it just looks all jittery and just weird looking. I think that it's more pleasing to look at. So that's why you would want to use NDs and stuff like that. I don't know where let me check. I'm going to stop this so I can check where the ISO is at here in the car with ND64, okay? All right, so right now at -0.7 with ND64, it's telling me that it's using 800 ISO, and it is at the 150th motion blur setting. So I think DJI kind of knows that people want to be around 150th for the most part, because I noticed that it's very hard for it to go underneath 150th. I think it tries its best to not go underneath that unless it needs more light. I think it's going to crank up the ISO. So whatever formula they have going on for their auto settings, it's legit. I think they have a really amazing auto setting feature. In my experience from all the cameras that I've used, including the professional ones, I think the auto setting on DJI Osmo Pocket 3 is way better than the auto settings on ZV-E1 or my Sony cameras. And it makes sense. I mean, I think those things were designed to be used more professional, like manual, and they have the buttons and the dials and everything, which makes using manual settings a lot easier in those cameras. I will say that I think these filters lean a little bit more on the magenta side from what I can see here. All right, guys, we just finished off that delicious Chipotle you guys bought me. All right, guys, we are home. I will say that the DJI ND filters are a lot easier to take off than the K&F. K&F are too slim, so. All right, ND16. Ooh, that looks pretty good. Motion blur looks really good. Yeah, ND16, it looks like it's what I needed in here. Everything looks pretty well exposed. Yeah, I feel like I'm getting motion blur in here. I can't see what the shutter speed is, but it looks pretty good to me. But if you're planning on using NDs, did you see how much work that took? Like, if I'm recording, or if I need to stop recording, now I got to take this out, open it up, take whatever, the wide angle lens off, stick it in here, grab this while I'm holding like all these three things or whatever. I can put this in my pocket. But while I'm holding this, trying to take it off, and then you have the Osmo Pocket in one hand and the ND in the other hand, like now you have to like use both hands to open. You have to either put this down, or you have to open it up, put it in there, grab the other, and hopefully you don't flip it and get fingerprints on it, and then stick it on there. Sometimes too, when you stick it on there, the gimbal head kind of like, you know, with the magnet kind of gets pulled, and it'll take a little while to like recalibrate back. Sometimes you have to double tap that joystick just to recenter it, but it does. It's just like, it slows down the workflow. So if motion blur is very important to you guys, then that's what you're gonna have to deal with. I still recommend using this in full auto with ND, and just use the strength that is gonna give you that 50th, that 180 rule, or the 150th shutter speed at 24 frames to get the motion blur. I don't suggest locking at 150 just because you lose out on dynamic range and that DJI secret sauce that I love. And I'm telling you that if you start color grading or you start looking at the footage from like the Holy Trinity, the full auto that I mentioned throughout this whole video, you're gonna realize you don't even have to color grade it. Just do it yourself. Go on your Osmo Pocket, film yourself like this, switch it to auto, and look at all the shadows. Go in a place where you have light coming in from one side and not the other, and look at your shadows and your highlights. They just look way better straight on auto mode. And all you need to do is have that shutter around that 150, 160 area. If you put an ND, it's just gonna force your camera to bring down that shutter speed, and you're gonna be good. And then you could just film, you get that secret sauce, and you're gonna get the best image out of this Osmo Pocket. I feel like the other way does that contrast thing I showed you guys earlier, and it's just not that good. Overall, I will say that I do recommend these because I do recommend these if you want the top quality. I think they both have the same, honestly, I rate them the same in quality. Color, the other ones, they both honestly look the same. I think they're doing a great job in terms of color casting. These ones have like a more reflective front of it. I don't know if that helps when like sun glares are hitting it to reflect some of that light off. I'll need to do another test whenever we have light sun. Today, unfortunately, is like a little bit darker. It's cloudy, so there's no sun, but it is bright enough to use an ND. I wish this had more. ND16 and 64 are going to be the most used ones. I don't know when I would use the ND256. Maybe when I go to Vegas and the sun's super harsh out there, maybe I will. But, or if I wanted to get super creative with like a slow shutter drag or something, then that 256 might come in handy. Other than that, I recommend these. If you want to get that motion blur and you don't want to get the jittery effect, but you do have to deal with changing them, if that's okay with you, then go ahead and get them. If you're a slow vlogger and you just kind of are planning your day, like you get on your car, you have the time to put it on, go, take it off, and you don't mind that because you're not in a hurry, this is going to be awesome. I say go ahead and grab these. But the K&F though are really slim, so if you put one on there and you want to turn off your Osmo Pocket but you're still outside, you don't have to take it off. You can turn it off, do what you got to do outside, and then if you flick it back on and you're still outside, like you don't have to put it on anymore. So you can keep it on because it's thin and it's designed so that the Osmo Pocket can close with it. It's stuck on there. But if you're going inside a store or something like that, you're still going to have to take it off because it's a different lighting. Like when I was at Chipotle right now, I ended up having to take off the ND because it was way too dark. So I took it off so that I didn't get noisy footage, and it was annoying, you know, as I was trying to order, I was trying to put it away and all that stuff. So that's kind of where you have to deal with. You don't need this whole set. If 68 bucks is not a lot for you and you could just spare them to try them out, then I think the DJI ones are nice. But if you just want to buy one and save yourself some money, get the ND64 from K&F or an ND32, and that's all you're going to need. Slap it on there, keep everything on auto. It's going to bring down the shutter speed low enough for you to get less of that jitter. It's definitely going to bring your shutter speed down to like 100 or you know, 60, 80 or 50, which is going to give you a way better motion blur than if you were just to leave it on. If I take the ND filter off right now and I go outside, the shutter speed would be all the way up to 800. That's what I got before I got in the car. And 800, 500 to 300, all those 100 level shutter speeds, you start getting all that jittery strobe effect when, and it just kind of, it's hard for me to unsee, but in a pinch, like it is one of those things that's kind of overrated. I think it's just because I do this professionally. I'm used to, like, I'm trained, my mind is just trained to see that motion blur, and it bugs me a little bit. Not enough to where I'm gonna have to keep switching NDs to miss out on like family and travel like experiences and stuff like that. So I think ND 32 or 64 is gonna be the go-to. I'm gonna vote for K&F on this one, guys. DJI, there's nothing wrong with this product, but I like the fact that I can keep it on if I'm outside and I want to turn off this Osmo Pocket. I don't want to have to keep taking it off, you know, and putting it back on. Cons are you cannot use a wide angle lens once you use ND filters. So you either pick motion blur or you get the wide angle. It's up to you guys to decide. I don't use ND filters all the time. Most of the time I'm full auto, but I've been trying to use them so I can test them out for you guys. I hope this video helped you guys understand NDs and just kind of let you guys know about the quality of these. I really do like them. I do prefer K&F. I think the winner here for me is K&F because you can keep it on and it closes with the DJI Osmo Pocket. Therefore, like not having, if I'm filming outside all day or in a bright area, I could just leave it on and it's just one less thing for me to do. Plus, I don't have to carry this little case with me. I can just put one ND filter in here along with my wide angle lens and I'm done. And I'll catch you guys later. Thank you for Chipotle and peace.